Today we're talking about something so many parents struggle with quietly. And honestly, something I think many of us feel shame around. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this podcast is for educational and faith-based encouragement purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health support, therapy, or medical advice. Hey friends, welcome back to Raising Daniels, breaking chains, building courage, leaving legacy. Using food to regulate our nervous system. Not because we're weak, not because we lack discipline, but because our bodies are trying to feel safe. And if you've ever found yourself stress eating at night, craving sugar after a hard day, emotionally eating after conflict, or feeling anxious when trying to lose weight, this episode is for you. Because food is often doing more than feeding hunger. Sometimes it's comforting pain. Sometimes it's grounding anxiety. Sometimes it's helping overwhelmed nervous systems survive. And today, I want to talk about the connection between cortisol, stress, emotional regulation, weight gain, comfort eating, and why healing has to happen both in the mind and the body. Because you can't heal anxiety only spiritually while ignoring what's happening physically inside your nervous system. You know what's interesting? Sometimes people say, why can't I just stop eating emotionally? But then they remove the food and suddenly the anxiety gets louder. Because food was never just about food. It became safety, comfort, grounding, relief. After a stressful day, your body wants something predictable, something soothing, something that gives a quick dopamine release and helps calm stress hormones temporarily. And for many people, that becomes food, especially sugary foods, carbs, processed, comfort foods. And here's the thing, many people don't realize. Your nervous system learns patterns. If every stressful moment is followed by food relief, your brain starts associating eating with safety. So when stress arises, cravings arise. Not because you're bad, because your body learned survival. Let's talk about cortisol for a minute. Cortisol is your body's primary stress hormone. When your nervous system feels unsafe, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, cortisol arises. And in short bursts, cortisol isn't bad. It helps us respond to danger. But the problem is many people are living in chronic stress, constant worry, financial pressure, parenting stress, marriage struggles, trauma, fear about the future, social media overload, never slowing down. The body begins living in survival mode. And when cortisol stays elevated for long periods, it can affect sleep, weight gain, cravings, inflammation, anxiety, emotional regulation, digestion, hormones, energy levels. And many people especially gain weight around the stomach area during chronic stress because cortisol signals the body to store energy for survival. The body literally thinks it's protecting you. So while we blame ourselves, our nervous system is often trying to keep us alive. This is something I think we need to talk about more honestly. Some people begin weight loss journeys or use weight loss medications and suddenly feel more anxious emotionally. Why? Because food was regulating the nervous system. If food was your comfort, your grounding tool, and suddenly that desire disappears, the underlying anxiety can feel exposed. It's like removing the coping mechanism without healing the root wound underneath it. And this is why some people realize I wasn't just hungry physically. I was hungry emotionally, hungry for peace, hungry for rest, hungry for comfort, hungry to feel safe, hungry to feel loved. But external things can never permanently heal internal wounds. Not food, not work, not people pleasing, not success, not constant productivity. Because eventually the nervous system still cries out, am I safe? Am I enough? Am I loved? Sometimes we use food the same way others use work, shopping, relationships, scrolling, or busyness. We're trying to regulate internally through external things. But true regulation starts deeper. You can eat the comfort food, but still feel empty afterward. You can lose the weight, but still feel anxious. You can achieve success and still feel unsafe internally. Because healing isn't only behavior change, it's identity healing. And this is where faith matters so deeply. Because God never designed us to build our worth from external things. The world says, you are what you achieve. But God says, you are mine. In Isaiah 43 verse 10, it says, do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. That changes everything. Because when your identity becomes rooted in Christ, your nervous system slowly learns safety differently. Not through numbing, not through striving, but through security in God. And quickly, before we continue, don't forget to check the description below for any new free resources, coaching programs, or courses if you want to do deeper healing and nervous system work with me. There are tools and supports available to help you break survival patterns and build a calmer, faith-filled home. Now let's continue. Now I want to say something important, because sometimes Christians think healing should only be spiritually. But God created both body and spirit. You cannot ignore the nervous system and expect peace. You cannot constantly overstimulate yourself, live stressed, suppress emotions, never rest, and then wonder why anxiety stays high. Healing often requires renewing the mind, processing emotions, calming the body, learning safety, setting boundaries, resting, slowing down, inviting God into the healing process. This is why simply saying, just pray more, sometimes leaves people frustrated. Prayer matters deeply, but God also designed the body with systems that need care. Even Psalms 23 verse 2 says, He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. Notice that God leads us into peace and rest, not constant survival mode. If food has become your main regulation tool, the answer isn't shame. The answer is building a new toolbox. Because if you remove the coping mechanism without replacing it, the nervous system panics. So instead of only asking, how do I stop emotionally eating? Ask, how do I help my body feel safe? Sometimes regulation can look like deep breathing, worship music, prayer walks, grounding exercises, journaling, rest, sunlight, movement, healthy connection, processing emotions with God, learning boundaries, slowing overstimulation. And over time, the body begins learning, I can survive stress without numbing. That's powerful. Sometimes when anxiety rises, we need to stop and remind ourselves of truth, but truth rooted in identity. Things like, I am safe with God. I am loved by God. I do not need to earn worth. My body is not my enemy. I am not failing because I struggle. God is with me in this process. Because regulation isn't just calming the body, it's retraining the mind. Romans 12 verse 2 says, let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Healing often begins there. So here's your one practical step for this week. The next time you reach for food during stress, pause for 60 seconds first. Not to shame yourself, not to stop yourself completely, but to ask, what am I feeling right now? What does my body actually need? Am I physically hungry, emotionally overwhelmed, or trying to feel safe? Then place your hand on your chest and take a slow breath and remind yourself, with God, I am safe. I am enough. I am loved. Then respond gently instead of automatically. That small pause begins retraining the nervous system. Friend, if you've been struggling with emotional eating, stress, anxiety, or feeling trapped in survival mode, there is hope. You are not just fighting habits. You are healing patterns. You are healing wounds. You are teaching your body safety again. And healing takes compassion, awareness, truth, and time. God is not ashamed of your struggle. He wants to walk with you through it. Thanks so much for listening to Raising Daniels, Breaking Chains, Building Courage, Leaving Legacy. If this episode encouraged you, share it with another parent who may need this reminder today. And remember, we break chains, build courage, and leave legacy, one step at a time.